guys, Dozer here bringing you a new video. Wanted to give you a quick rundown on a Katsu game that I did recently. And again, we're doing a VOD review because, well, the benefit of doing VOD reviews is that you get to make improvements on the different plays that you've made. You can learn where you can make some slight improvements to your efficiency without having to try and remember the whole game, right? Doing VOD reviews is really important for getting better at the game, so I cannot stress enough how important it is to record your own games. So let's get right into the game here. Let me stopping and pausing a bit more than normal just to get my my thoughts down. So like right off the bat here, we've got ourselves going second. Katsu's going to lead with the Kodachi. Generally speaking, this is something that is just fishing for damage, right? We have a 0 block in our hand. We have our footsteps. This is normally a really good time to try and just stop some of that chip damage. We're going to need every bit of HP that we can get into Katsu most of the time. So leading off with the 1 HP block with the footsteps and having the 1 floating, it's totally fine. And again, like our opponent doesn't have like any setup here, so we're mostly just looking to hold all the good cards in our hand possible while blocking the worst case scenario that he's got. With only 3 cards left, he doesn't have Magical Momentum, so we don't really need to block the second Kodachi. It's not really worth giving up a full card for, because maybe he could do something like surging into bonds, or, you know, he doesn't have a bonds target right now, but, you know, he could do some type of combo line, like a whelming play. And so giving 1 card here is totally fine. We can block 6 on our next attack if we need to, which should cover most anything he throws at us, but we're also keeping our erudition and our protection in our hand. Now, the important thing to note here is why not block with the protection red? Why block the protection yellow? Well, generally against Katsu, I think protection's a really important card to keep, and though it'd be really nice to be able to throw Herald of Erudition by pitching a yellow card and then doing our shenanigans, right? I'm expecting to draw a yellow card. I'm not really worried so much about keeping an extra yellow in hand to guarantee my go again on my next turn. We have tons of figments in the deck, right? We've got 37 yellows in the deck, so the odds that we don't draw one up in this next hand here is really small. So, and again, at the end of the day, we have our 1 yellow erudition to throw our protection, which is honestly pretty good still. So I'm not really worried about trying to guarantee the other yellow pitch, though it is a consideration. However, that's the end of our opponent's turn. They're going to go ahead and arsenal. We're going to draw up. So we've got our 3 yellow hand with the red protection. And right off the bat, we're going to send that Goliath Gauntlet into erudition combo. We have our Halo active, and so if our opponent happens to pop us here, we can just search out the Figment of Triumph out of our deck by pitching our War Tune Herald and putting our Herald of Protection into our soul. Now, we don't want to rely on Halo in this matchup. Halo is normally going to be our get out of jail free card for when he goes for a Katsu trigger or a Bonds trigger or a Mask of the Pouncing Lynx trigger. However, again, being able to threaten 7 dominate, draw 2, go again on your first turn while retaining the ability to finish off our opponent with the extra protection or with a Halo tutor, totally great. Our opponent manages to block it, good for him. That's so lovely for him. However, it's not going to do that much because we are just going to send our second Herald into his face. So get that 1 juicy extra damage that we would have missed out on if we had blocked with the red before. And we're going to be able to send that no problem. So we're going to go and get a Figment. Well, let's get Figment of Erudition, right? So this is actually a perfect example to illustrate something I've been talking about in the purple Discord recently. Basically, when you create a Ponder with Erudition, most of the time, it's not going to be amazing. Sometimes it's going to be a Herald, sometimes it's going to be an Aura, sometimes it's going to be like an instant or something, but a lot of the time it's going to be a Figment or another card that you don't really want to have in your arsenal. And so there's a lot of cases where playing your Figment of Erudition to try and get a Ponder token could work out really well, could not, but at the end of the day, what we're really playing the card for is the ability to get Soraya, which can draw us 2 cards the next time that we have an extra soul to throw at our opponent. So that's really what we care about here. We're really worried about setting up the Soraya more than we are about getting the Ponder off. Because as you'll see, in classic fashion, what are we going to get? But we're going to get Light of Soul into our hand. So now we have to decide, do we Arsenal Light of Soul? Yeah, no, we obviously don't. We can't get it out of there, except with very specific circumstances. Thing is too, we also forego the flip on the erudition. The reason for that is our opponent has, 1 card left. It's probably a blue or a card that can kill erudition, so like the Archangel. So we don't want to just flip it. Even if our opponent had just the 2 Kodachis, we'd still have to give up a lot of cards in order to keep our Angel alive instead of just taking like 1 damage or something. So in this case though, Like, if we didn't care so much about trying to land the Ponder, because if the Ponder landed, we'd be gaming, right? Like, that's totally fine. But we could also have gone for the Figment of Protection, right? Because Figment of Protection would have given us another Spectral Shield, so we'd have 2. If our opponent Kodachis, we can no block and keep our Angel. And we'd have the extra 4 life, and if our opponent wanted to send like a full attack at us, you know, they could kill our Angel, whatever, but that's free HP for us, and we don't really lose anything. However, in this case, you know, the Erudition is totally fine as well, but it is worth noting that when you're against Ninja specifically, and you have the ability to have 2 Spectral Shields up while being able to keep your Angel almost guaranteed, it's normally a good thing to do. So we are able to do this. We're able to draw up our hand. Our opponent has nothing threatening, right? It's just Kodachi. We just take our damage, get rid of our Spectral Shield, and move on with our lives. At the same time, we're going to be planning our next turn, and so we've got our Light of Soul. Now, here's a situation where I was thinking, okay, well, maybe I want to take the Kodachi damage and just go into my turn. But I'm looking at my hand. I'm like, you know, I throw Herald of Triumph. I pitch Light of Soul or something. Maybe my opponent blocks it. Maybe I then, you know, flip my Erudition, right? And I attack, whatever. Maybe I draw off the, or I get a soul off of the Light of Soul, and maybe I draw off the Erudition, but maybe I don't. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, I don't have the ability to guarantee that I'm going to have this huge pop-off turn next turn. Obviously, I can pressure my opponent pretty decently, but I'm thinking, okay, well, I've got this blue, so I actually have a really good opportunity here to go and block with my Footsteps and pitch a blue card to do that. And then use the floating to flip my Soraya, right? Because we know that the Katsu's tapped out. He doesn't have anything extra he can do this turn. So being able to stop 1 damage, again, it can add up. And being able to flip our Erudition to guarantee that no matter what our opponent does next turn, we can throw Soraya into a Herald and not have to worry about getting popped by anything. You know, it doesn't play around terrible many cards because there's a lot of 7 power cards in the game, but Katsu doesn't really run them. But being able to run 4 into maybe Herald of Ravages could be nice. The extra 1 damage, but even still, we're going to throw the Herald of Erudition, the Triumph, because we're going to try and just force through and make sure it doesn't pop us. At the same time, it's really unfortunate that we missed the basically 50-50 on the Light of Soul, because if we did, we would have drawn more cards, thrown 2 Heralds, and been super chill. It would have been great. But even so, in this case, we are totally happy with this right now. Throwing the Herald of Triumph. There is something to be said also about kind of lulling your opponent into a false sense of security. Like if I throw a Herald and you know nothing can follow it, you might be willing to keep it and try and throw more damage at me. But that gives me more soul, that gives me more Figments into play, so it's kind of good for me. I'm kind of okay with that. At the same time, let's see here. We draw into Library. So this is already going to be very interesting, right? So we have an Angel, we have a Spectral Shield in play, we've got our Library, and it can be really tempting to cut Library in a lot of matchups, especially aggro matchups where it's harder to block or it's more important to block or whatever. But what I found is that really, because you're shuffling your deck so much, you kind of have this ability to dodge the downsides of the Library, right? Because the problem with Library in the past was that you would be pitch stacking your deck, and if you didn't draw the Library early, you knew it was at the bottom of your deck. And so you knew in the late game when you needed it least, right, when you needed block and pitch and attacks the most, that's when Library would show up and really kill you. But in the beginning of the game, you're always happy to see it, right? The difference, though, is that because we're shuffling our deck so much, when we don't see the Library early game, we're still about as likely to see it at any time of the game. It could just as easily be on the bottom of the deck as on the top of the deck. So the fact that we are avoiding effectively having the Library creep higher and higher and higher up in our deck on average, it's still kind of always in that middle territory on average, then we kind of really mitigate the downsides of having Library in the deck. And sometimes you'll draw it late, and that's unavoidable in some cases, but the real benefit is that when you do draw it early enough to leverage it, it can be really, really powerful, right? So what we're going to see here is we're going to see that the Katsu is not going to have that great of a turn, right? He's going to try and attack us. We have our Angel on the board, and he's attacking our face. So we say, okay, like totally, that's cool. Get rid of our Angel, don't care. It's just HP and stops us on hits. We have a hand of damage to throw at him anyway. Right, like we can keep a full 4-card hand here. We can throw protection into our Library, kind of no problem, and then be super happy with whatever happens after that. We could even pitch into our Angel first and then drop our Herald as well. We have a lot of options here. Our opponent's going to attack us though with the Descending Ghost Wave. You know, there's a world where you want to check and make sure he can't Bonzi here. But remember, we have our Halo of Elimination. We always have this like get out of jail free card, where if our opponent decides to tutor something, like they're going to do right here, where they're going to get rid of that 100 wins, they're going to get a Bonds of Ancestry, and now they're going to be able to come at us with, you know, some decent damage. But we say, no thanks. We're going to pitch our yellow card, get rid of our non-pitch Herald, and we're going to go get that Figment of Judgment so we can snipe his card and end his turn kind of right on the spot. We are wasting one pitch here, which is totally fine. Not a big deal. If we had a blue pitch there, that would have been ideal because then we would have been able to flip an Angel as well. But either way, we're going to be able to throw our Herald of Triumph here at our opponent and be able to arsenal our library. And the thing too here is like you might be tempted to say like, oh, well, maybe play library first and arsenal the Triumph. But really, the Triumph needs to start getting damage on our opponent, right? We need that HP buffer. We need that free Angel flip to make sure that the Katsu isn't catching up to us. And we really want to be able to draw off the library the turn we play it as well. There are some situations where you don't need to draw off the library the turn you play it, but generally that's what we want to be going for. And so being able to go and get another Figment, here we can get a whole bunch of different things. I think I checked my graveyard here, and yep, we have our Herald of Erudition, so we get our Rebirth to get our Erudition back. It's all really important to make sure that we are not just autopiloting, right? Because like you could get Figment of War here, it's totally fine, but I'd rather have another Erudition than I would having +1 on some random card, right? And so we can flip something. We're never gonna get value out of our Figment of Judgment ever again. And so arsenaling the library and having a guaranteed Erudition here, super nice for us. Our opponent's gonna try and send a whole bunch of stuff into our face. But again, we're at 29 HP and he's at 18. So we have a lot of wiggle room here to live off of. And if we really need to, we can kind of stuff him right in place. But we have an Angelic Wrath in our hand, so while we can save our Soul Shield to maybe block a really important on-hit this turn by pitching our no-block card, we also want to make sure we have at least that 3-card hand to guarantee our Erudition into him if possible. Now, at the same time, we know he's got very little armor left. If he wanted to block our Erudition, he would need exactly a D-React plus his Mask of the Pouncing Lynx or a 3-block plus his Mask. And if we get his Mask out of him, we're super happy. So we don't really need to land the Angelic Wrath next turn, while we do want to reduce his options by not letting that Surging Strike come through for free. So a couple things to consider there, but I'm pretty sure the Soul Shield here is the safer play. It's the more consistent play. Now, he's going to go for our face here, which is probably a mistake. He probably should have gone for the Angel to guarantee the on-hit. Alas, that's not really our problem. He's going to go throw the Skanachis at us. We don't care about this anymore, right? There's no Mask of Momentum to worry about, which is really nice for us. And yeah, so we have our Erudition Judgment in our hand. We have an extra soul off the Soul Shield. We love that. We have our library ready to go. Our opponent has to give us his Mask if he wants to stop this turn. He's probably not going to do that. Especially what if his hand's all 2 blocks, then he can't stop it no matter what he does, and he has to have a popper. So we're just saying, hey, show me a popper, show me a 3-block, and give me your Mask. Otherwise, I'm going to pop off. Opponent says, okay, sure, here you go. I'm like, okay, sweet, thanks. We're going to search off of our Prism, and here you can get whatever you want. Ravage is totally fine. We don't have a Halo trick anymore for it, so we may as well get it into play. And here, we could play War Tune, but then we're giving up our ability to drop Library, whereas we could flip an Angel, swing the Angel, and then drop Library, which is going to be much better for us here. So we're going to go ahead and flip Protection, pitch our Light of Soul. Do we get a card? Yes, we do. We get an Erudition. Some people might not put this into their soul because they want to play it next turn, but not me. I'm totally happy to get that extra soul, throw that away, makes two Spectral Shields, and be able to just freely go ahead and get not only our Figment of War into play, but also end up dropping our library and draw up to our 5-card hand. Now, we've got Angels, Figments, a lot of soul. We're really gaming right now. Our opponent can't really Kadachi us right now, so we're very happy about that. And already in our hand, we only need like a 3-card play. Herald of Triumph, pitching maybe like Soul Shield or something into playing Angelic Wrath gives us a lot of value. And if we wanted to, if he doesn't block our Herald of Triumph, then we can use our Angelic Wrath to attack the Angel instead. Now, our opponent here is not really having a very threatening turn. We're still at 27 life. This is really a slaughter at this point. He's coming at us with 4 power, we say, okay, here's my angel, I don't care. We still have our spectral shields to absorb Kodachis or help with breakpoints. And this guy's probably just totally unsure of what to do. I know I sure would be in this situation at 8 life to a 27 Prism with a full board. But make sure you check the dishonor stuff with the combat chain, right? Like, don't get... you need your hero ability, right? So don't let them catch you unawares with that. However, we didn't have... the dishonor effect is not active here. Talishar doesn't tell you everything all the time. So totally fine to let this hit. Get rid of some shields. No problem. He's thinking, okay, well, we've got all these actives and, you know, these reaction triggers and whatever, but at the end of the day, he's not going to have much he can do here. So many action points. Doesn't want to have to break anything to do that. So go to our turn, 4-card hand. Off the back of library, allowing us to still block and maintain some pressure. Herald of Triumph coming in for 8. Love that off the courage token. And so our opponent's going to have to give us probably a lot of cards here to stop us from just flipping more angels and just going crazy on them. However, it's again, it's kind of curtains for our friend here, but, you know, it's going to try and block us out. Hasn't popped us once this game. He might not run any, or just might have been really unlucky not drawing them. And so we're going to throw our Angelic Wrath on top. Boom, boom. Hit him for 3. Going to get our last Figment into play. Flip. You want to be aggressive here, so you want to flip into your Ravages when you're trying to finish off your opponent. Because again, like, we're threatening lethal here. He has to give us his mask or a card in hand to live. And so we're totally happy if he kills this somehow next turn. But he gives us a card, goes down to 1 life, keeps his mask. I think that's wrong. Because now he's just going to pass and it's going to be our turn. And we're just going to go ahead and throw Ravages or second, right? And then just bop him in the head. And that's the game. So thanks for watching. I hope you learned something out about how to play this matchup, maybe which cards do a lot of work, maybe which cards you can afford to pitch or block with. A lot of my gameplay videos have had library in them, and I literally just record one game and I talk over it. I don't fish for games. I'm not looking for like very specific situations. I literally just am recording as I go, and I just happen to be getting library very consistently. So take that for what you will. You know, your mileage may vary on that, but in my experience, Light of Soul can be a hit or miss. Library can be a hit or miss depending on how long the game goes. Like, sometimes you'll draw a lot of blues and not really be able to keep your draw up forever. But generally, it's felt okay to me. And but again, you can probably cut library. It probably isn't necessary, especially into like aggro matchups. It's probably better into things like Guardian and stuff, but again, probably not necessary there either. Yeah, if you have any thoughts on how the matchup played out or what you would have done differently, please let me know in the comments. And otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.